So I recently received a question about shifting tasks within a set and how that impacts specificity. And so the thought process is if you're constantly changing what you're doing, isn't that potentially problematic because you're not being as specific as you could be, or you're not being specific to what you're trying to accomplish? So varying tasks can be really important because it allows for swimmers to experience similar things in various different ways, and that's going to help promote their learning. So how does this fit in with specificity? So the key is to do different versions of the same task so that they're getting variation, but they're still working to accomplish the same basic thing. And so in that way, it's still specific, but it's just different versions of the same thing. So for an example, if you're trying to work to improve propulsion with the arm, you're trying to get more out of the forearm with each stroke, you can use a closed fist. So what you can do then is you can have them use closed fist on some repetitions, index finger, horns. You can have them use two fingers. You can have them use an OK sign. So it's all the same basic thing. You're just doing it with different versions of the same idea. And the idea there is that you're taking the hand away so that they have to use the forearm to create propulsion. Likewise, you could use the same example, and then you could have them do, again, use a closed fist. Same idea. But what you can do is have them change the number of strokes that they have to take over a course of a lap. Or they can reduce the number of strokes they take each lap. Or they can alternate between higher and lower stroke counts. Or another way to do it is, again, closed fist. Sometimes they're going to use a pull buoy, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're going to swim with resistance, sometimes they're not. Those are all ways to change and vary the task, but you're still trying to accomplish the same basic thing. Another example, again with closed fist, you can have them use a bunch of different speeds. So they can alternate between 100 pace type effort and then a cruise aerobic speed. You can do anything like that as well. Again, so the basic idea is that if you have a singular goal, and then you're going to vary what you ask them to do so that they have to accomplish that goal in slightly different ways. Now, in the example that I provided, the variation was pretty tight because in all cases, you're using a closed fist as your primary tool, and you're using different variations of that closed fist in order to help learning. You can also vary the task more significantly, provided that they're still trying to accomplish the same goal. So the first thing we did was swimming with a closed fist to try to improve propulsion. And then you could do some stroke count resistance stuff with an open hand. That's pretty different activity, but you're still focused on accomplishing the same goal. And so then you could switch back and forth between those different tasks, or you could include them both in the same set. So variation is really powerful because it keeps swimmers engaged and it forces them to find slightly different solutions to slightly different problems. However, they're still all directed towards the same thing. So in that way, it can be really powerful versus just repeating the same task. And in the example that I provided earlier, that could just be swimming with a closed fist over and over and over again. It's not going to be particularly engaging. And once they figure it out the first time, they're just simply repeating the same process. And that's an example where practice makes perfect doesn't really apply because they're simply rehearsing the same solution over and over and over again that they already know the answer to. Instead, you want to try to give them a little bit more of a challenge and force them to find different solutions to different problems. Now, it's also possible to use pretty extreme variations if you're doing so for a purpose. One of those purposes could be that you're just trying to maintain certain skills and you want to have swimmers exposed to a bunch of different skills within a certain set so that you can just maintain them. And you're not really trying to promote learning, you're just trying to stay in touch with certain skills. So especially during a taper period where you don't have a lot of volume to work with, you might just have them perform 1 or 2 repetitions of a different skill and just kind of do that a couple times so that they get to stay in touch with those skills as opposed to not being able to do those skills. So hopefully that provides a little bit of insight into how variability and specificity work together. The key is that the variation should still be pretty specific and that they're all directed towards solving the same solution. That way, swimmers are focused on accomplishing one goal, but they're trying to do that in a bunch of different ways so that they can really expand the breadth of their understanding of what they're trying to accomplish and that they have multiple solutions that they can use when it's time to try to swim fast. Hopefully that helps, and if you have any questions, absolutely let me know.